Hello and welcome to Open, the show opening the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Kibin Alleyne covering for Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough and New York City. Coming up, we'll speak with a candidate for New York Congressional District 15 in the Bronx on issues they are looking to address within their community. Following that, we'll discuss how Lenovo is developing technology to address the global societal issue of mental well-being impacting young people today. Later on in the show, we'll talk about how one organization is helping women who have been impacted by trauma find employment and careers. After that, we'll delve into New York State's intensive crackdown on speeding and other traffic violations. Finally, we'll talk about how you can build credit and the importance of monitoring your credit. We'll have more details later on in the show. So stay tuned. All this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Kibin Alleyne and you are now watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also want to welcome our viewers to the Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is being broadcast simultaneously on MNN's channels. You can stay connected to us on all social media platforms at BronxNet TV. Some things have been going on throughout this past week. We'll take you through it with some Bronx updates. We start with traffic news. New York City drivers will soon encounter more red light cameras as a result of a recent bill passage. The bill, approved by both the State Senate and Assembly, empowers the city's Department of Transportation to expand its red light camera program from 150 to 600 intersections. Sponsored by State Senator Andrew Bernardez, the legislation also extends the city's red light camera program until December 1st, 2027. According to NYC DOT Commissioner Yandis Rodriguez, the effectiveness of red light cameras is evident in the significant decrease in red light violations and related accidents at equipped intersections. In other news, New Yorkers are in for a relief as New York City Mayor Eric Adams recently unveiled a plan to address the city's public restroom needs. The You're in Luck initiative aims to construct 46 new facilities and renovate 36 existing ones in city parks over the next 5 years. The distribution of these restrooms is strategic: 23 in Brooklyn, 28 in Manhattan, 14 in Queens, 7 on Staten Island, and 10 in the Bronx. To make finding these facilities easier, a Google Maps layer will be available on smartphones, highlighting NYC parks, DOT, MTA, and city library-operated restrooms. Mayor Adams emphasized the significance of this project, stating improving access to public restrooms is a vital step in enhancing the livability of New York City. It addresses a fundamental need that often goes unnoticed until we urgently require it. In political news, New York State Governor Kathy Hochul recently announced the indefinite postponement of congestion pricing in Manhattan. The governor explained her decision, citing concerns about potential unintended consequences for New Yorkers, particularly regarding affordability and the city's post-pandemic economic recovery. The congestion pricing plan had been years in development and was slated to commence on June 30th. Under the plan, drivers entering Manhattan below 60th Street would have incurred a $15 fee, with commercial vehicles facing higher tolls. Originally aimed at generating revenue for vital transportation upgrades and maintenance, the plan sought to modernize New York City's aging subway system and enhance public transit options across the city and its suburbs. However, the governor's decision reflects a reevaluation of the plan's timing and potential impact on residents. That's all for the Bronx updates. We have to take a quick break, but we'll have more open when we return.
The ability to have my show during this time is helpful because I can stay connected with my friends, still interview people and share my content.
Thank you, BronxNet. Congratulations on 30 years. What an amazing accomplishment. On behalf of myself, Alleyne Dow, and I represent the Dow Twins and the Dow Twins Show, who are young producers. They started, I think, when they were 11, and now they're 14. They started making 30-second little fun facts, and now they are doing 30-minute shows. And it goes to a testament of how much you guys do in the Bronx to make young people want to continue to be involved. I wish you 30 more amazing years and beyond. Thank you for what you do.
Welcome back. Our next guest is stepping into the political arena with a clear mission to represent New York Congressional District 15 with integrity and dedication. With a deep understanding of the community's needs and a history of proven leadership, he is poised to tackle pressing issues head on. Joining us now is the Vice Chairman of the Bronx County Conservative Party and District Leader for the 79th Assembly District, Gonzalo Duran. Gonzalo, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored because today, in this episode right here, is my first time being on television as a politician. So thank you.
That's so amazing, and I'm glad that we could share that with you. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about your background and what inspired you to run for Congress in New York's 15th district?
Well, I'm a former United States Marine Sergeant. Came back home. I started a veteran nonprofit called Devil Dog USA Incorporated. The last almost 11 years now, we've integrated into the community, helping out in almost every aspect you can think about, from civic engagement to homelessness, employment, etc. I've always been in the political scene for the last about 8 years, but as you stated earlier, now I'm in the arena. Last year, I officially made the ballot for City Council, and this year I'm in the Congressional race for District 15.
Now, how do you plan to address the pressing issue of safety in the Bronx, particularly regarding increasing crime rates and community police relations?
Well, I've been working with the police department for many years, trying to build relationships with the community, because that's one thing that I believe needs to be addressed and increased a lot. When it comes to safety, I'm an honorary member with the Guardian Angels, with the Bronx chapter, so I've been patrolling here and there throughout the year with them and providing them resources that they need. Recently, we started a program with Master T.J. Rivera and the Bronx Veteran Chamber of Commerce to have a women's safe defense course that we've already had 4 classes, and we have maybe 6 more done. One of the biggest things that we're looking for right now is places to host us and more funding for the rest of the year.
That's amazing. Now, could you expand on your support for term limits if elected?
Yes, I do believe in term limits. For Congress, it's a little hard because normally it's only 2 years, and normally the first year you're doing all the work, and the second year you're trying to get funds again. That's where personally I think Congress should be increased at least maybe 1 or 2 years. I'm not 100% there, but also I don't believe in career politicians. That's where they get a little too bit relaxed, too much power in their hands. What the exact numbers should be, I don't have, but I think if the president can only serve 8 years, I think somewhere in around that ballpark should be as well for other elected officials.
Now, what advantages do you believe term limits would bring, and how might they positively impact the constituents of New York's 15th Congressional District?
Well, as I stated earlier, career politicians, once they get too much power and are in place and comfortable, you can see the dramatic change in their work. Also, let's say somebody like Richie Torres, the incumbent for the 15th Congressional District. This year he's running with an $8 million, I believe $6 to $8 million campaign budget right now, and all of it is coming from one specific organization, the IPAC. So right there, you shows the dynamics of maybe a little bit obscure on where his allegiance, instead of maybe just the community, it may be just to one specific sector. So.
Now, I'm curious to know, what specific measures do you propose to tackle unemployment and create more opportunities for career growth in the Bronx?
So one, we have to keep an eye on the big businesses that are taking advantage of the Bronx. Let's say Uber, Amazon, these are, and some organizations like FedEx, they have this program where they hire employees either at half pay or some half part-time, or they give them positions where they have to compete with each other for jobs, or their tax breaks are too big for the economy to grow. And then the wages aren't being subsidized as much as you would think. There's a lot of individuals that are working 2 jobs while working these programs where these big businesses are making billions of dollars, yet the paychecks have a lot of people on public assistance. Working with, in my advocacy work, working with the Bronx Veteran Chamber of Commerce and other organizations, we've dealt with trying to get people situated for these bigger opportunity and jobs. I was in a meeting with the mayor a couple weeks ago, and one of the things that they brought up was they have about 14,000 jobs that are opportunity just in the city hall alone, and plus, thousands of, hundreds of thousands of jobs open for their availability. But are people qualified for those jobs, and are they getting it to the people? So I've been using also journalism and media to try to bring those attention to the people, let's say in the Bronx. One of the articles that I did for City Hall was the job opportunities. I can't remember the title of it right now, but it's being waved into underburdened community that have high unemployment rates like Harlem, the South Bronx, and other places around the city.
Now, I'm curious to know, how do you plan to support local businesses and address the decline of neighborhood establishments in the face of big corporations?
Yes, so once again in City Hall, I was in another meeting where the the Just Yes initiatives that have been going on. For the second phase, that was more for businesses right there. Trying to promote the tax codes that were in place that were holding a lot of businesses at bay. For example, there was a code that if a business closed down and after 2 years nobody didn't really open up, then that would be stuck in foreclosure for a while. That was a ridiculous code that should have been eliminated a long time ago. That's one. I work with different organizations and businesses right now in my advocacy work to bring these programs. Let's say the self-defense program. I wrote a grant through the Bronx Veteran Chamber of Commerce and Devil Dog USA for this individual who wants to build, let's say, a martial arts class for the community. Well, he has a program, he has a need, but he doesn't have the resource to get it out. And that's where I came in and helped him out. Now he just got featured in the Bronx Times. Hopefully News 12 will pick up next. And those are examples of just one of how to get businesses and using the resources and the programs that, let's say, an elected official should be doing to help out businesses.
Now, I want to talk about civic engagement. Can you just outline your strategies for improving communication between elected officials and constituents?
Well, one of the things is, for me, I think there's a really big lack of elected officials only being out in the community. You see them during election time, but it's really hard to see them during the other time periods. And that's where I would be different. If I was elected, one of my big positions is to have a dedicated time myself for the community. I will, because that's the way I believe it should be. Getting more vocal. There's accountability on both parts. There's accountability on the elected officials, and there's accountability on the individuals. There are a lot of resources and programs out there, but if the people aren't going to speak and reach out, then there's not a lot of hope there as well.
Now, education reform is a significant part of your agenda. What steps do you believe are necessary to improve the education system in the Bronx and ensure better preparation for students?
Yes, so this is one of the questions I asked directly to the mayor 2 weeks ago, face-to-face, one-on-one. For me, it's not throwing money at everything. I believe transparency on where the money is going is more important than anything. Focusing on the criteria such as reading, writing, et cetera, are key fundamental things that I believe that the school systems are leaning away towards, but we need to go back and focus on those. This year, the city didn't raise taxes. What they did was they moved money around to look at where it could fit in different places. I will commend the mayor for what he did this year in the Board of Education. We're closing a lot of the contracts for the labor unions, increasing the pay for the teachers, et cetera, stuff like that. But where we're lacking on is focusing on the core values of the educational system.
Now, how do you plan to balance national interests with addressing the unique challenges and needs of the Bronx in Congress? So
one of the things when we look at a district, let's say the 15th Congressional District is a large district, goes from Riverdale down to Fordham Plaza, down all the way to almost the Hunts Points area. Right there, those are different demographics that we hit, different economical structures that we also hit, businesses, individuals, homeowners, et cetera. We have to look at the whole aspect of the individuals that live there and not specific sectors. The incumbent, my opponent right now, I'm not trying to be negative, but if you look at his current trend, he's moved away from the Hispanic, African, even the LGBT community for the most part, focusing on one specific group, let's say in the Riverdale section with the Jewish community. You can see that in his post on his forefront with the Israel, which I have nothing opposing with them, but there's a whole other sector. I've been one of the most prominent people in the 15th Congressional District, and I haven't seen him at all since he taken into Congress. And before that, when he was in City Council, I think I only met him maybe once or twice. For somebody who's so active like me, not to be have to have face to face with the guy, that's that clearly examples of not being for the people and also bypassing a lot of the community members.
Well, Gonzalo, I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing a little bit about your plans and the things that you want to do to improve the Bronx. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
For more information, you can visit their website at gonzaloduran.nyc. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
Happy anniversary to BronxNet, 30 years. Wow, brings back so many memories. This exact studio that I'm in right now, I broadcast out of here. This must have been around 2003. I mean, time flies by so quickly. I started out here, it was either Mr. Gary Axelbank and Mr. Batch. With Lady Morsar, we used to do a show here called In the Neighborhood. And I brought so many different guests on this show. To be able to bring your voice to the community is very powerful. To bring hip hop and spirituality, I brought my pastor in this same studio, Pastor Gino Jennings, and I'm sure you guys know who Pastor Gino Jennings is. That's rough. And some disciplined teaching. BronxNet is something that we need to uplift our communities, because this is a platform that we can come, and if you have a vision that's in your mind going into your heart, you can use it to do uplifting things for your community.
Welcome back. What happens when tech and AI are used for good? Lenovo's Meet Your Digital Self is a groundbreaking, world-first social experiment enabling technology and mental health to come together to uplift and nurture our future generations. Joining us now to discuss more is the Chief Health Officer of the Crisis Text Line, Dr. Shairi Turner. Dr. Turner, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what inspired Lenovo to develop the Meet Your Digital Self project aimed at addressing mental well-being among young people?
Well, I believe that really Lenovo is recognizing how technology can be a powerful enabler, and that young people feel comfortable texting on their phones. They sought us out for this partnership because we are free 24/7 mental health support and crisis intervention support for on a text platform. So we provide this free support for young people, especially in English and in Spanish.
Now, could you elaborate on the societal issues surrounding mental health that prompted Lenovo to focus on young adults specifically? And I understand that Generation Z is kind of the focus for this. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, we are in the midst of a mental health emergency, a youth mental health emergency more specifically. We know, looking at statistics, that back in 2010, for example, 2 million young people reported symptoms of depression. Fast forward to 2022, 5 million young people are indicating issues with depression. We see this ourselves in the texters that we serve. We know that over 70% of our texters are under the age of 24. So they are digital natives who feel very comfortable reaching out for support through a text platform. In addition, our United in Empathy report shared that stress and anxiety are the two top issues for younger people.
Now, could you walk us through the process of selecting the two young adults who participated in the social experiment?
So I wasn't a part of the selection process. That was Lenovo's really careful choice around young people who could represent, I believe, a span of other individual, young people and represent young people, so that the purpose really is to show that you can reconcile your online and offline identities, and connect to your family and friends through the use of this technology and AI.
Now, what were some of the key findings or insights gathered from the research conducted prior to developing the Gen Z protagonists featured in the projects?
That I do not know. I wasn't part of that part. Our partnership really is to support and elevate the work that Lenovo is doing and let young people know that we are there as a resource if they find that looking at these films makes them want to seek out more support.
Well, then, could you tell us a little bit more, I guess, about your role? You know, as we mentioned, it's connecting technology with mental health. And previously, whenever discussed, it was always in a negative. So can you talk about, the importance of kind of switching that and making it into a positive?
Yes. So we've seen how powerful it is over the past 10 years to be able to establish a human to human connection through text. And our volunteers, we've trained over 70,000 volunteers in stages of a conversation. So they help the texter to identify the crisis through empathetic and active listening. They then collaboratively problem solve with the texter, to help to establish some coping strategies, and then de-escalate the conversation so that the texter feels better at the end, and then also has resources to leave with after the conversation is over.
And I think it's very innovative that we're kind of moving towards texting, because that does make sometimes even vocalizing how you feel can be such a really hard step for a lot of people. So I love that we're kind of using this to be a little bit more innovative and finding ways to make people feel more comfortable. Just with this idea in mind, could you see possibly any challenges with moving towards something that's like a little bit more with texting instead of maybe something that's a little bit more face to face or over the phone?
Well, I think looking at the demographics of the young people who are in need, right? So we know we have a youth mental health epidemic. They feel more comfortable in an anonymous setting, being able to text anonymously and confidentially anywhere. So we always say a crisis to you is a crisis to us. So whatever they're struggling with, they know that if they're in their classroom, they're out with friends, there's always an in the moment resource available. So that only allows for greater access and mental health support.
Now, in what ways do you envision the Meet Your Digital Self project contributing to long-term benefits of young people's mental well-being?
Well, anything that allows young people to both explore their mental health issues and connect with their family or friends for additional support is a good thing. So, this is just an innovative way for younger people to lean into their digital side, their interests in AI, their growing interest in AI and smarter technology, and meet their older generation parents or friends and have those very relevant and very important conversations about isolation, loneliness, anxiety.
Now, what do you hope to see for the future of this effort? As I mentioned previously, I think it's amazing. And I think it's going to help more than just young people. I think it's going to help people who are a lot older, because it's just a new way to address mental health. So what do you hope to see for the future of initiatives and efforts like this?
Yes, I hope this is just the start of opportunities where people feel comfortable using technology as a tool, right? It never replaces, it doesn't replace for us that human to human connection, right? So crisis text line is always a texter connecting with a live volunteer. But our hope is that this helps us to bridge the gap and create more opportunities for people of all ages, like you said, to get more resources, because we know we're in a mental health epidemic and there's a shortage of mental health professionals. So anything that can provide more support and help to decrease the stigma is a good thing.
And Dr. Turner, I also want to mention the fact that you mentioned that people will be talking to a live person is so important, because I know there's this fear that sometimes you'll be talking to, AI, or, even when we have, just anything where we're talking to customer service, we don't want to talk to, the robot. So I think it's so amazing that you mentioned that and kind of ensured people that there's somebody there listening. With that being said, thank you so much for joining us and having this important discussion just to prioritize mental health, especially for young people. So once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
For more information, you can visit their website at lenovowfh.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
Hey everyone, it's your girl Kat from the Kitty Rose Lifestyle, also from The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray every week right here at BronxNet, Saturdays at 11 p.m. Wow, 30 years. 30 years of BronxNet public access television. I'm a girl from Brooklyn and came to the Bronx 25 years ago, started my journey on BronxNet on public access television in 2016, and BronxNet is where I got my start. BronxNet, I feel like, is a home away from home. They support all of my endeavors, and I wouldn't have been able to be on any of the other channels if it wasn't for the fundamentals that I learned right here at my start here at BronxNet. So I am so appreciative. My son says I should stop telling people I'm from Brooklyn, because I've been here now, Bronx strong, for 22 years. So I'm so grateful, and I wish you much success in 30 years, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30 more, because public access is necessary so that people like myself can have a voice. Yes, BronxNet, it's your girl Kat from Kitty Rose. Check me out every Saturday at 11 p.m. right here, Channel 68, The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray. Mwah.
Welcome back. Going Deeper LLC is an organization dedicated to transforming the lives of women impacted by trauma. Their vision extends beyond mere assistance, aiming to fundamentally change how these women view themselves, fostering self-worth, value, and self-sufficiency. Joining us now is the founder of Beauty from Their Ashes, Liliana Maria. Liliana, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, good morning. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, can you share with us the inspiration behind the founding of Going Deeper LLC and its mission to support traumatized women?
Yes, I am a trauma-impacted woman. And in my journey, I came across so many other women, and we found that there's really no resources. It's very hard to get people to support you. Everything has a stigma, right? Whether it be domestic violence, whether it be the foster care system, everything has a label on you. And I also co-wrote a book with my pastor's wife, Mary Kay Holmes, called Outliving the Labels. And that's what's hard to do. So people coming out of any situation are, judged, stigmatized. So we wanted to create a safe atmosphere where women could come in. We would build them up, teach them professional skills, so that then when they got out there into the market, they were so marketable that the stigma no longer mattered. And that's how the concept came about. And there's a few of us that came to this inception together. We worked on it. We've been doing it for many years. We started during the pandemic, which is when BronxNet first interviewed me. And it was very hard because we were shut down and we couldn't communicate or go outside. And we're just taking off now. We have a few landmark projects that we've been blessed with, and we hope to touch the lives of women.
Now, how does Going Deeper LLC specifically work towards building self-worth and self-sufficiency among the women it serves?
We build self-worth by letting women know that they are worthy. no matter what their past is, no matter what they've been through, that they have a purpose, a God-given purpose on this earth. And we encourage them daily with daily inspirations, affirmations, and showing them their talents and their gifts. So we bring those out rather than whatever circumstance brought them to us. They are not defined by that. They are defined by their inner beauty and their inner worth, their inner ability. And as I said, their God-given talents. And then the self-sufficiency comes from those talents. So we have women who come to us who would like to become chefs or open their own restaurants, like Eve Cuisine by Yvonne Lopez Lou. We have women that are artists, like Elizabeth Moskowitz, and we bring out those talents and help them showcase those talents to the outside world and hope that somebody will notice and employ them or even help them start their own e-commerce business, which is what we used when we started Compassion Cosmetics as the model. So we started a cosmetics company where 85% of the proceeds benefit the women, but it was also the test model. So we know how to bring these women to do that. We also have a community garden that we're opening up this Saturday, the 15th, at 2774 Dewey Avenue in BronxNet. And that is going to grow vegetables and fruits so that the people in the housing have some resources, because we all know the price of food has gone up for everybody, not just the trauma impacted.
Now, can you discuss the significance of spiritual mentoring in the journey of healing and empowerment of the women involved in Going Deeper LLC's program?
I'm a strong believer that it all starts with God. I am a chaplain, ordained chaplain, but that's not where it started. My relationship with God started before that. And I know that it's important to believe that you are fearfully and wonderfully made by the Creator, and that you are purposed in this world. And that is what we teach. We teach the love of Christ, and we try to show the love of Christ. And the love of Christ is redemption, it's forgiveness, it's a clean start and a clean slate. And no matter where you come from, you have not gone too far. And we also network with another organization, a blend of services, which is the nonprofit component, and that is run by Pastor Shante, and she offers her services as well at St. Peter's Deliverance Ministries. And we just want to show that God loves everybody, Jesus loves everybody, and we're here to help, and we're here to show you that you are worthy to become something amazing.
Now, kind of expanding on this idea of, just loving everybody, how does Going Deeper LLC ensure that its programs remain inclusive and supportive, particularly for those who have experienced, diverse forms of trauma?
It's not easy, because when we do involve ourselves with other organizations, some of them come with the message that they do believe in the redemptive love of Christ. But once they find out a person's history, they tend to walk away. So it's really not easy to ensure it, but we can ensure it among the team. And we vet everybody to make sure that they are accepting and inclusive and do not discriminate by any means, because anyone can be redeemed, forgiven, and have a fresh start, no matter what you have been through. So we, within the team, do it, and we have also been impacted by certain circumstances, each of us a different one. And so because we've been impacted, we know not to judge and not to make anybody feel like they've been excluded. So we try to keep the team amongst people who have also experienced the trauma, so that they are naturally more loving and inclusive.
Now, finally,
the outside world isn't always so.
Now, finally, how can individuals or organizations support the work of Going Deeper LLC and empowering and uplifting trauma-impacted women within our community?
We would love to have people come out to the garden and bring us seeds, bring us plants, bring us flowers. www.beautyfortheirashes.org is the website that will also show you other ways that you can get involved. We now have chartered the first Toastmasters in District 46. It's historical, for women impacted by trauma, to give them a voice so they can publicly speak and maybe one day become reporters like you. And they learn to speak. So anyone who wants to join the Toastmasters Club, visit the website, support the garden. And we have also partnered with Sestra Now. It's so noisy here. I'm so sorry. Never is.
No worry.
But today it is. So we have partnered with Sestra Now. It is www.sestranow, just as it sounds, SESTRANOW.com. Ancestra in Swahili means sister. So it is a sisterhood that has an app specifically for women. Anyone who goes on there purchases the app, and when you purchase the app, you get to showcase your business. Then going deeper gets 50%. So there are so many ways that you can support us. You can support a blend of services by donating on their website. And there's so many open doors for people to help us. And we do need the help, and the women need help with starting their businesses.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to speak with us. I know you have so many things going on, so we really appreciate your time. So thank you again, so much for this.
I appreciate it too. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. For more information, you can visit the website at beautyfortheirashes.org. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
Only 57% of New York City high school students are college ready by their senior year. "55% of high school graduates either have no plans to attend college or are uncertain that they will ever attend. "34% of young adults don't go to college because they can't afford it. Discover what's possible. BronxNet's education programs, internships, and opportunities help engage and inspire Bronx youth and beyond to pursue their passions. Be a part of the BronxNet family. Whether you're interested in our shows, joining a class, or donating to support our mission, visit BronxNet.org to learn more.
Welcome back. Law enforcement is preparing for an intensive crackdown on speeding drivers as part of the Speed Week enforcement campaign. However, their focus won't stop there. They'll also be closely monitoring motorists for various other traffic violations. Here now to tell us more is a partner at Levine and Slavit, PLLC, Ira Slavit. Ira, thank you so much for joining me.
And thank you for having me on your show.
Now, can you provide an overview of the Speed Week enforcement campaign and its main objectives?
Yes, actually, officially, Speed Week was last week, but of course the lessons apply. But Speed Week was June 3rd to June 9th. It's something that the state, it's a New York State program that they seem to do annually to up enforcement and visible enforcement so that the drivers are aware that it's going on, to try to limit speeding, but not just speeding, aggressive driving in general, work zone laws. There's a move over campaign, move over law actually, which requires all drivers to either slow down or change lanes if safe whenever they're approaching a disabled vehicle of any kind. It doesn't have to be an official vehicle like that. So just to give you some statistics, speeding is in 2022, according to one study, 345 people died and 11,968 people were injured in New York State in speed-related crashes in 2022, and speeding has been found to be a contributing factor in approximately 1/3 of all fatal accidents.
Now, how extensive will the law enforcement efforts be during Speed Week?
They're very, the idea behind it is to make, to get the state troopers visible so it keeps people top of mind, or keeps speeding top of mind, because you know how it is when you're driving and you see someone in a marked car, you're always thinking, you take a look at the speedometer, you just kind of take a little self-awareness check to make sure you're not doing anything that could be a problem. And I think the more people become aware and self-conscious of their speed, that becomes very helpful to controlling the issue.
Are there any specific areas or highways where the crackdowns will be more intense?
That I think is top secret.
Well,
But
that makes sense, yeah, because you don't
it's
want people to possibly know, right? So that makes sense.
right, but it is a state program, and it's state troopers that are enforcing it. So if you're on, it would be more on a state highway, I would think, or the New York State Thruway. But oftentimes, I think when you have one agency sort of making stepping up their enforcement, it can lead to other local agencies like county police forces also stepping up their efforts.
Now, besides speeding, what other traffic violations are state police focusing on during this campaign?
So it's speeding, aggressive driving, the move over campaign, distracted or impaired driving, um, also vehicle occupants who are not properly buckled up. Actually, I've heard stories of people who think they're being pulled over for speeding, and actually the reason they've been pulled over is because a police officer or someone noticed that they weren't buckled. They weren't wearing the seatbelt as required by law, and that's why they got pulled over.
Now, can you just elaborate on the potential consequences of these traffic violations? Just in the long run, but also, just with their life. A lot of this can result in death. So, can you just talk about the major consequences that come from these traffic violations?
But there can be criminal and civil liability. Criminal, could be, unfortunately, a negligent manslaughter, criminally negligent vehicular manslaughter. Civil, which is where I practice, there's accountability because you can sue and be compensated for your pain and suffering. Sometimes somebody may not have adequate insurance, and so you run a risk if you don't have adequate insurance and you're driving recklessly. It doesn't even have to be reckless, just negligently. You could expose your own assets to collection. Also, just in a practical sense, in terms of the case ends up in court, we all learn the rules of the road when we learn how to drive. Well, there are certain rules and statutes that if you violate could involve speeding or an unsafe lane change, and the judge will essentially tell the jury that you've been negligent, and your lawyer might not even be able to make an argument to the jury, or an effective one, that you weren't negligent. So it's really important that the rules of the road be obeyed.
Now, what legal advice do you have for motorists who may find themselves ticketed or involved in an accident during this campaign?
Same advice as always. The consequences, I don't believe that the penalties are any greater this week. It's just that you may be more likely to be caught. So just like any other time, if you're in an accident, and I'm really just speaking more now of the civil side, which is where my practice is, you want to take photographs, as many photographs as you can of the scene of the vehicles. Try to take not just close-ups, but overall pictures so that you can use the pictures to help tell your story. Say as little as possible. Certainly don't admit that guilt or say that you're sorry. Make sure you get the information from the other side. Sometimes people don't want to wait for the police, and that can be understandable, but don't leave without, and nowadays you can take a picture of somebody else's license, but you definitely want to be sure that you're going to be able to make contact with that person, or if you go to a lawyer, be able to give the lawyer the person's information, and then they can look up who that person is, what the address is that the vehicle's registered to, maybe find out the name of the insurance company, and so forth.
Now, I think
Also,
this is. Oh, I'm sorry. You can continue.
one other thing, if you're on the victim end of this, if you're not feeling right at the scene of accident, seek medical attention, go to the hospital or go somewhere quick, because insurance companies, if there's a delay, like to try to argue, hey, it couldn't be that bad. Look how long, or maybe it didn't even have anything to do with the accident. Look how much time went by before they saw a doctor.
Now, I definitely want to highlight the importance of the move over law. Can you just tell us, what that is and why it's crucial for motorists to adhere to it?
The move over law is designed because there have been too many sad stories of, initially started when you would have like an emergency vehicle, like an ambulance or police on the shoulder of the road, and it could be either side of the road, and a car would come along and would strike the stationary vehicles and cause injuries and death. So initially, the move over law was only if you were driving and you saw one of those emergency vehicles, um, you would have to move over, slow down, change lanes if it's safe. The law was expanded just this year to now include any disabled vehicle. If you're on a highway and you come upon any disabled vehicle on the side of the road, you need to slow down and change lanes, move out of the way, unless it's not safe to do so. And first-time conviction will be set a $275 fine and 3 points on your license. So.
Thank you so much for sharing that and educating us on that. Now, in your opinion, how effective are these enforcement campaigns in changing driver behavior and improving road safety in the long term?
Well, just to give you some statistics, last year, 2023, during this speed week, 20,000, almost 21,000 total traffic tickets were issued, including 10,500 for speeding, about 500 for distracted driving, 375 violations for that move over law. So that is an important law to be aware of. And 172 people were arrested for drunk and impaired driving. What effect it has is hard to say. I think every time something is done that brings road safety to top of mind of people as they're driving so that they're more self-aware of what they're doing will always help, even if it's subconsciously. That would be the effect I would think.
Well, I definitely want to take this time to thank you so much for joining us and educating our community on the importance of this campaign and what we can do to just kind of make our city safer in general. So thank you so much.
And thank you again.
For more information, you can visit their website at newyorkinjuries.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Open right after this. Welcome back. Good credit opens doors to numerous financial opportunities, providing access to favorable financing terms, reduced insurance premiums, and increased chances of rental housing approval. Whether you're establishing a credit profile or seeking to improve it, there are strategies to boost your score swiftly. Joining us now is the Bankrate Senior Industry Analyst, Ted Rossman. Ted, thank you so much for joining me.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Now, what are some key advantages of having good credit, and how can it impact one's financial opportunities?
Your credit score is one of the most important numbers in your financial life because it goes a long way toward determining whether or not you're approved for loans and lines of credit, even some non-credit obligations, things like renting an apartment, getting a utility or cell phone plan. Even some employers will check credit reports. It really is a very important number. It's a report, basically, on how likely you are to pay your bills back in the future.
Now, could you elaborate on how good credit can lead to lower interest rates and higher credit limits, and why these factors are actually very important?
there can be a huge range. For something like a mortgage, even a quarter point or a half point can make a really big difference, tens of thousands of dollars over the life of the loan. For something like credit cards, if you have good credit, you can get a 0% balance transfer card and move your existing high cost debt over to a card that maybe won't charge interest for almost 2 years in some cases. The average credit card charges over 20%. If you have bad credit, you might be charged 30%, or you might not even get that card at all. We see it really across the financial spectrum. Mortgages, car loans, credit cards. If you have better credit, you're going to get better terms, and that can really add up over time.
Now, how can good credit affect insurance premiums and rental housing approval?
In terms of housing approvals, landlords are going to check your credit. So even if you're not taking out a mortgage, even if you're renting, they still want to make sure that you're paying those bills back. So they're definitely going to look at your credit ahead of time. It really is one of the most important numbers in your financial life. It's just so important to practice those fundamentals, paying your bills on time, keeping your debt low, showing that you can successfully do this month in and month out. There are some things you can do to improve your score pretty quickly. I'm a big fan of these alternative credit scoring processes, things like Experian Boost, that with your permission can look at your bank account and pull in things that haven't historically counted but maybe should, things like streaming service plans and utilities and certain rent payments. This can be a way to improve your score based upon behaviors you're already doing.
Now, what makes managing credit responsibly over time an effective strategy for rebuilding credit?
If you've had a mess up with your credit in the past, there are some things you can do to improve it. Now, unfortunately, negative payment history sticks with you for 7 years. The impact is most pronounced in the first couple of years, and you can offset it with other things. It won't completely wipe it away, but if you have a late payment, let's say, really what you want to do is fill your report with as much positive info as possible to try to counterbalance that. So we certainly want to be paying all of our bills on time every month if we can. Keep your debts low. When it comes to credit cards, they usually report as of the statement date. So your credit utilization ratio is credit you're using divided by credit available to you. It can make sense to throw in an extra mid-month payment or two to knock that statement balance down before that statement even comes out. That can be a quick way to improve your score. There are some things that you can do. You can get on a parent's credit card as an authorized user, and you can piggyback off their hopefully positive credit history. You can sign up for a credit builder loan. Some fintechs and community banks and credit unions have these. It's basically a form of forced savings where you put money aside every month, and then at the end of the term, maybe it's a year, you get to keep almost all of it. They usually take out some minimal fees, but that form of forced savings known as a credit builder loan, as long as it reports to the credit bureaus, that can help. Or you could sign up for a secured credit card where you put down a deposit that serves as the credit line. It's very low risk, but as long as it reports to the credit bureaus, that can help you improve your score.
Now, I've seen online so many people have all of these tips and tricks on how to build credit quickly. Some people say don't pay too early or pay not late, but maybe just before, you're supposed to pay it. How can people know that the advice that they're getting is legit and actually won't harm them in the long run?
Sometimes we can overthink these things. The general rules of the road are pay your bills on time, keep your debts low, do it over the long haul, manage different types of credit, kind of lather, rinse, repeat. Sometimes there is misinformation out there. It is important to factor in where you're getting that. We have good info at Bankrate. You can get info from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau or the credit bureaus themselves, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. FICO came up with the most widely used credit scoring system. So these are all reputable sources. It is true that if you really want to geek out over credit scoring, there is this thing called the all zero except one method, where you basically pay all of your credit cards off even before the statement comes out. And then you have one other show a very small statement balance. So not carrying debt or paying interest, but even just on that statement date, a small balance that you pay off right away. something like that is probably overkill for most people. But, that brings up another important point, which is what is good enough. The credit scoring scale goes from 300 all the way up to 850, but you don't need to be perfect. In fact, very few people are. But once you hit the mid 700s, you're generally deemed to have excellent credit, and there's really no practical benefit to scoring better. Most lenders are going to treat a 740 or 750 the same as they would an 840 or 850. So you don't need to wrangle every last point. Where it does matter, though, is on the border. If you're a 690 versus a 700 or a 660 versus a 670, that's where the battleground is more important.
Now, can you discuss the importance of setting a goal for your credit score and how it could influence credit building strategies?
You can probably meaningfully improve your credit score within about 6 months. And, the specific tactics will vary. If you're being dragged down by an error, that's an easy fix. So if you haven't checked your credit in a while, everybody should do this. Go to annualcreditreport.com. It used to be annual. That is still the name, but you can actually get a free credit report every week now. So go to annualcreditreport.com. This is a free government mandated resource. Also, a lot of banks and credit card issuers will give you credit scores and reports for free. You could get one from myfico.com or experian.com. Figure out where you stand. And maybe there's an error. The Federal Trade Commission says about 1 in 5 Americans have mistakes on their credit reports. So if you find one, report it to the credit bureaus. That's an easy fix to get wiped off. If it's a legitimate misstep, like a late payment, that's going to stick with you a while. But like I said, there are some things you can do to counterbalance it by filling your report with good info. There's also such a thing as a goodwill deletion. No guarantees it'll work, but sometimes it makes sense to call or write a letter to the lender and maybe just explain, be honest. But hey, I was traveling, I had a family member in the hospital, I was busy, whatever it is. They may actually wipe that off just because you asked nicely and you're otherwise a good customer. It might work, but it might not, but it might be worth a shot.
Well, I definitely think this is such an important topic to discuss because I know that for so many things, we have to have a good credit score. And I know that it stresses a lot of people out, especially a lot of young people who are kind of new to this entire world. So I definitely want to take the time to thank you and just appreciate your time for, joining us and kind of educating us on the things that, we can do to build better credit. And, if somebody is struggling, that, there is a light at the end of the tunnel and that there are ways to improve this. So once again, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
For more information, you can visit their website at bankrate.com and follow them on social media at Ted Rossman. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast on Optimum Channel 67, Verizon Fios Channel 2133, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Rena Valentine on Friday. This wraps up this episode for us. I'm Kibin, Alleyne. Make sure to keep this channel wide open. Take care.